Hi, my name is Cathy. I run the company AromaGnosis with my husband, Dr. Florian Bertmeyer, where we use aromas, depth psychology, and personal journeying to help people connect with their true essence. In this video, I'm going to share with you a short exercise to help with anxiety, and then I'll follow that up by some suggestions of some essential oils that can also help with anxiety. As I'm sure you've noticed, things have been intense lately on this beautiful planet. What with the world politics and the ecological situation, you name it, it's anxiety provoking. Many people are not only feeling anxiety linked to their personal stories, but they're also feeling this collective anxiety linked to a world that is becoming more and more difficult to understand and feel in harmony with. I have recently been waking up feeling anxious. You know that feeling when you open your eyes, you realize you're here in this life, and then you suddenly feel a thud of anxiety in your stomach. So the common reaction to unwanted feelings like this is often to somehow try not to feel them. We try to do something, to busy ourselves, to distract ourselves, to cover the feelings up. And this can work momentarily, but is definitely not a long-term healthy solution. That saying that I'm sure we all know, what we resist persists, applies to unpleasant feelings. Instead, if we want to heal, we need to do the opposite. And I want to share an exercise that helps me overcome anxiety. And I call this exercise, to feel is to heal. So first of all, get comfy. And you can do this when you feel the anxiety coming up in your day, or when you wake up in the morning, like I've just explained, and there's the anxiety. So first of all, you want to be comfortable, and you want to just acknowledge that you are feeling anxious. Nothing wrong with it. I am feeling anxious, and acknowledge it rather than doing something to run away from it. Remember to breathe and really feel it. Close your eyes, and with the part of you that witnesses yourself but doesn't get involved in the dramas of your life, you can ask yourself the question, what does this anxiety feel like in my body? Remembering to breathe and just noticing, where do I feel it in my body? What does it feel like? If you wanted to go a bit deeper with this, you could check into each part of your body and see how the anxiety expresses itself there. And then ask yourself, whereabouts do I feel it? What does it feel like physically? And then when you've finished feeling it physically, you could ask yourself as well, what does it feel like on an emotional level? You might want to put words to it. You could put the words that come up in your journal. You might have images coming up. Next, just allow the anxiety to exist in its own right without judging it, without trying to change it, without distracting yourself from it, or without even trying to understand it. Just behold it for what it is in itself. In a way, you could say, open yourself to the anxiety. There should be no resistance, just a complete feeling of openness and awareness, remembering to breathe. Then slowly, step into the anxiety. Put yourself in the center of it and just notice what it feels like when you really welcome it to envelop you completely. And as you do that, see if you can feel compassion, not just for the anxiety, but for yourself as you feel it. Remembering, you are not the anxiety. It is merely a feeling passing through you that needs to be allowed to be felt. That's all a feeling is. Feeling needs to be felt. And it runs through, it runs its course through the physical body, emotional body, through the mind sometimes, through the spiritual body, but it runs its course, it's energy. Remember all the way through this exercise to breathe throughout and stay with it. If your mind wanders, simply acknowledge that it's wandered and go back into the awareness of the anxiety. What you're really doing is giving the anxiety what it needs, which is, first of all, to be felt. When I do the above exercise regularly, I'm much more able to handle the feelings of anxiety that are coming up. In a way, I become more familiar with them. I sort of get to know my own anxiety, and I can relate to it like a friend, or on friendly terms at least. And I can even feel empathy for it, and of course, for myself. So knowing I can fully feel anxiety and that it does not kill me is very liberating, and it diminishes the fear that we feel around feeling anxious. It also allows the anxiety to process itself, to work itself out. So remember, what we resist persists. So if we persist, the anxiety becomes more intense and keeps on going and comes back regularly. But if I allow myself to feel it, then it will run its course. So being more familiar with it also helps me to choose allies or tools or activities that can help me to process it. And that's what I wanted to talk about here at the end of this video, is what essential oils can help me. So I'm reminded that the anxiety is a signal. It comes from often hidden parts of myself, maybe in my body, my emotions, my mind, my spirit, or even from the environment. Anxiety is a reminder that it wants to be heard. So it also reminds me that I can call in my allies. So, as I said, I'm going to talk about a few essential oils that can help support this journey of feeling our anxiety. So I'm not saying that essential oils here in this context are being used to dissociate or distract myself from the anxiety, or even to relieve it. Instead, I usually choose an oil from a selection by smelling them one by one. And what I do is, whilst I'm smelling them, I tune in again to the feeling of the anxiety. And that helps me to feel if that particular oil is relieving and calming, even elucidating or enlightening or not. Is it going to help me, this essential oil, to process and work with this anxiety or not? And as I smell it, I actually ask my anxiety to indicate, is this a good oil or not? Now, this could sound contradictory. On one hand, I'm saying we need to fully feel our anxiety, and on the other hand, I'm telling you to choose an oil that will transform the symptoms. But I'm not asking you to cover it up. I'm asking you to use the oil as an ally to help the anxiety transform itself. And as anxiety is often a repeat visitor, I also invite you to have the chosen essential oil in your pocket or in your purse, and so that you can bring it out and it will help calm the feelings. Maybe when you're busy, you might be at work, in a social interaction, you have it on you. In a way, it's just like when you're cooking. It's nice to adjust the heat so that whatever you're cooking gets cooked right and tastes great, instead of getting burned. So let me just mention a few essential oils that are known for their help with anxiety. And I'm not saying these are the ones that are going to be right for you, but I didn't want to leave the video without mentioning a few. So these are just general basic suggestions, a beginning. And don't forget, the real help is the guidance you will receive directly from the oils you use and choose yourself. And because everyone is different, what I invite you to do is to cultivate your instincts and choose the oil that suits you, regardless of whether or not it's known for its calming properties or not. It's not about this oil is good for that, even though I am going to mention some for anxiety. It's more about which oil is good for you at that given moment. So remember, choose with your nose, not your book knowledge. And remember, the nose knows. Okay, so one very commonly used oil for anxiety is lavender, Lavandula angustifolia. It's full of esters, which are well known for their calming antispasmodic action. And remember though, some people have an unpleasant reaction to lavender because it's so widely used. They might have a memory from it that they don't like, so not everybody suits lavender. One of my favourites is actually Angelica root. And it's both instantly soothing and calming, but also incredibly grounding. So that grounding helps with anxiety as well, helps us be in the present. And it's like a warm, soft blanket that sort of comes around me. Oils from the orange family, such as neroli, petit grain begardier, and bergamot, which is from the zest of the oranges, are all very calming. In fact, all three of those oils I've just mentioned come from the same tree. They're very different, but they're all parts of the same tree. And they're very, very popular because they have such a beautiful smell. And lastly, rose. Rose has a special affinity to the heart. And as the heart is often tight and cramped and constricted when we're feeling anxious, rose gently softens this area and opens it up and helps us, as we spoke earlier, about being more compassionate about ourselves. So you could do that with coupled with a meditation for the heart as an antidote to anxiety. Oh, and I did say lastly, but I want to mention also another one of my favourites, which is Helichrysum metallicum. And this beautiful oil that is endemic to Corsica goes really deep. It gets emotions moving. So you might feel that your anxiety is sort of tight and paralysed, and you're tight and paralysed with it. So the Helichrysum will really get you and the feelings moving. And like its everlasting flowers, it carries a golden light within it that heals us through its touch. Okay, so lots of love, and just remember, what we resist persists.